My Uncle Dale was dead. My parents called me right away asking me to fly up to Medford, Oregon for the funeral. I've always shouldered the responsibility of being the family's planner, fixer, and the calm in the storm. It's not just a role, but a testament to my love for each family member. So of course, I was going to be there for my parents. But I also had a complicated relationship with Uncle Dale. I love that he was quick-witted, charismatic, and could play any song I requested on the piano by ear. He was a born storyteller. He was a big talker. You might even call him a liar. And he was an Archie Bunker type. Loud, opinionated, and not shy about sharing his opinions. He loved creating emotional chaos wherever he went. Divorced? You're a loser, Gayla. Moving to California? You mean the regulation nation of California, Gayla? Marrying outside the religion? You'll burn in hell, Gayla. When I was little, he boasted that he was a top-notch salesman. His specialty? Burial insurance. Uncle Dale bragged that he bought the premium burial policy and, as an expert in the field, had promised a grandiose, well-planned, and first-rate funeral for himself. Something not to miss in my lifetime. It also meant that I would have little to do except support my parents emotionally. I caught the first morning flight after he passed. I hopped into a big car waiting for me at the curb at the airport. Inside the car were my mom, my dad, and my mom's siblings, all in their 80s. Uncle Floyd, the eldest and a farmer, had never flown before, so he was a bit wide-eyed and slightly unsettled. He forgot to pack his underwear. Aunt Jean was there with her husband. They had traveled extensively throughout the world and had high expectations that somebody would meet their every need. I was prepared to manage Floyd's awe and Jean's worldly demands, even if it required me to juggle two different orbits of family gravity. They were all a bit anxious. I figured it was because Uncle Dale was the first sibling to die, reinforcing their own mortality. Instead, my mom cried. We arrived last night and the funeral home was closed. Can you imagine? He's been alone all night. So I suggested we go straight there. We could buy Uncle Floyd some underwear after the burial. As we pulled up, there it was, Uncle Dale's freshly dug grave, right in front of the funeral home. Center stage, prime real estate. We walked inside the palatial funeral home, and there was this elegant mahogany casket with gold-plated handles, definitely deluxe. Uncle Dale was a large man, triple X large, so the casket was gigantic, extra grand. My mom said, Dale always knew the best caskets to buy. My Aunt Jean, though, was upset. I thought possibly because she was realizing that Uncle Dale was indeed dead. Instead, she pointed at Uncle Dale's closed casket. My mom and her family grew up in the backwoods of northern Minnesota, where they would display their dearly departed in their living room until burial day. The kids would play around the casket while the adults reminisced about their loved ones. I always felt it was a bit macabre, but I respected that it was their tradition. This isn't right, Aunt Jean moaned. How can we talk to him if we can't see his face? So, being the fixer, I found the funeral director who informed me his wife requested a closed casket. I kindly explained. His sisters and brother don't just mourn the dead, they share stories. It's how they grieve. He hesitated and nodded. All right, but just for a little while. He opened the casket, and just like that, we saw Uncle Dale lying on plush velvet. And Uncle Dale was immediately part of the conversation. The stories and his traveling salesman jokes started flying. It felt like Uncle Dale was still with us. We took turns going to the bathroom so Uncle Dale would never be alone. Then lunchtime rolled around. We decided it would be rude to eat in front of Uncle Dale, So I got the funeral director to close the casket. After lunch, I got the funeral director to begrudgingly open the casket. We continued to share our stories about Uncle Dale. At 5 o'clock, the funeral director approached us and said the service was about to begin. He closed the casket and opened the doors. Uncle Dale's wife, his adult children, his grandchildren, and great-grandbabies walked in a solemn procession. They clustered together in the front row, waving and staring at Uncle Dale's closed casket. As the service began, I watched the funeral director stroll over to the casket. I assumed he was going to say a few words. But no, he was running on muscle memory and began to open the casket. I'm screaming inside, no, 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 but it's too late. He opens it. It was the first time my cousins had seen him dead. They had been told the casket would be closed, and here it is open with Uncle Dale grinning. And it was all my fault. I cringed with each gasp. I slipped down into the pew when I heard a shriek. I listened to my cousins' group sobbing, the kind you hear in telenovelas, except this was real and raw. I looked at my mom and her siblings who were enjoying seeing Uncle Dale again. I realized I had created the emotional discord. I was no longer the calm in the storm, I was the storm. After the surprise viewing and service, I approached one of his granddaughters who was bawling. I tried to console her, saying, "It's hard when you lose a grandpa." She replied, "I hate him so. He always called me trailer trash. I'm glad he's dead." I patted her gently, understanding how his words could cut one to the core. I then went to console his wife, who was still trembling. I gave her a gentle hug and apologized for the open casket fiasco. She looked at me and said, "I ordered the funeral director never to open the casket. Why did you disobey my wishes?" I couldn't say anything more. The damage was done. I also learned that Uncle Dale hadn't paid for a viewing, which explained why the funeral director was pissed at me every time I asked him to open and close the casket as our wake concierge. And that wasn't all. When Angie asked me to lead her to the graveside burial, the funeral director stopped us. Uncle Dale had opted for a private burial the next day. No one could attend. I knew what that meant. Uncle Dale sold us a dream of caviar limos. What we got was Spam and a backhoe at dawn. Yes, Uncle Dale opted for a bargain burial policy, meaning I had more matters to fix. My mom and her siblings were devastated. My uncle offered to take his dead brother to the hotel so he wouldn't be alone for the night. I explained that his thoughtful offer violated public health ordinances. I coaxed a miffed Angie to the car while she bemoaned that she could never rest until she saw her brother buried. Up until that day, I'd always been the family problem solver, the one who smooths things over and makes it all work. But I hit a wall that day, juggling the casket drama. Even in death, Uncle Dale had stirred up emotional chaos, and I was a fool thinking I could fix it all. That day taught me that being the fixer doesn't mean solving everything. It means showing up, listening, and holding the tension. Sometimes trying to help one person disappoints another, and that's okay. That's life. So, in the spirit of Uncle Dale, here's a joke for the road. Why did they put a fence around graveyards? Because everyone's dying to get in. But Uncle Dale loved that one. And some of us loved Uncle Dale too.